Hi friends, strangers, internet. My name is EmilyHanhan. I love colorful makeup and colorful language. And I am back with what I think is going to be my final top 10 singles with eye swatches. So today we're talking about Lethal Cosmetics. I have picked out my top 10 single eyeshadows from the brand. I've done eye swatches of each color, and I have a couple of other things I'm going to mention as well in this video. Now, I was inspired by all of the upcoming indie sales that are happening for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. I know Lethal has talked about having a sale. I don't know any of the specifics. They said up to 45%, which could mean anything. So it might not even be worth shopping, but I just thought it would be a good time to talk about things that they make. I adore Lethal. I really love their matte eyeshadow formula, and I have quite a collection from them. I have talked about this before. They do have a tendency to dupe themselves out. So I don't have everything from their collection by any means, but I have a little bit. My top 10 is a little bit of a little rainbow palette in a way, just to give you a spoiler. And we're going to go through each one and I'm going to give you my thoughts. You know, eye swatches for matte shadows might not feel as helpful as shimmers and duochromes and multichromes, but I thought, why not give it a try? We'll see how it goes. Before I get into the top 10 though, I'm just going to quickly touch on a couple of other products that I have from Lethal and my feelings on them. Now, Lethal does lip products, they do face products, and they do eye products. In terms of lip products, they have glosses, lipsticks, and liquid lipsticks. I have not tried any of their glosses, and I only have one from the other two categories. I have their lipstick in Rome, which is a very cool taupey neutral on me. I've worn this a couple of times. I've only had it, I've had it for like 6 months, but I've worn it a couple of times. I find that it's a very kind of like thin formula, not too thin, but on the thinner side. I think if it was a color that like, it's a kind of rare color for me to wear, but it's also kind of why I picked it up, because it was giving me those 90s grungy vibes. So I'm not gung-ho to get more of these, but I also don't dislike it. I'm just kind of unsure. I also have a liquid lipstick in Wasteland, and this is an olive green. While I'm stoked to have an olive green lip color, this is their Chimera liquid lipstick. It's not anything special. I'm pretty anti-liquid lipsticks, and this one doesn't change my mind on it. For their face products, I've tried one of their highlighters and 3 of their blushes. The highlighter that I tried was nice and shiny, glowy, but it wasn't intense. It wasn't glittery. I did end up liking it more than I thought I did. I think it was Ionic was the name. But I ended up getting rid of it because it was shattered. But yeah, I'm not sure how I feel as a whole about the highlighters. But from my experience with their shimmer eyeshadows, it makes sense in terms of kind of like brand style. It kind of makes sense to me that the highlighters wouldn't be quite that intense alien slut look, or they wouldn't be glittery or something like that. I have 3 of their blushes. I forgot they also do bronzers, and I really enjoy their blushes. So the 3 colors that I have are Neophyte, Tendril, and I believe this is Calyx. I have Calyx and Tendril on my face. These are intense. They are a matte formula. I don't think they look powdery, but they're definitely not glowy. If you see any glow, I layered my highlighter on top of this. I will link the Get Ready With Me where I applied these, and I've applied these on camera before. I like the blush formula. I think that the fact that they launched with some really interesting colors and tones made me really happy. I love that they're magnetic. I like this palette. I also like that I can pull them out and put them with other like single eyeshadow palettes. And I really enjoy them. And would be I would be tempted if the blushes are on sale. I'll just say that. But if you're like a light pigmentation, easy breezy kind of blush person, these are probably not the blushes for you. Just saying. I have no idea if the bronzer formula is any different than the blush formula, just FYI. Now, for the eye products, there is a product that I have raved about before that my feelings have they've changed a bit. So the lethal gel liners, I still really like the performance of the lethal gel liners. This one, Ectoplasm, which I got in PR, thank you Teresa and Lethal, like I love it. But something that I've experienced and other people have experienced that I like, specifically like people I know and more than just the one, they dry out pretty quickly. And I did a whole like experiment, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you keep them in the jars, you keep the lid closed, you keep the stopper on, like 6 months is what I'm saying. Like they can dry out in that period of time. I think that for me, as somebody that has finicky like eyes, it's been good to play around with these, and I still will probably pick up more in the future, but I've kind of pumped the brakes on how hard I recommend them. I think if you're like specifically drawn to a color and you want to try it out, I like, yes, do it, go for it. But if you would be annoyed at the thought of them drying out in the near distant whatever future, there's your warning. Okay, so we've talked about everything but the eyeshadows. Let's talk eyeshadows. Now, I only pulled out mattes in my top 10. I would say if I had, there's a couple of shimmers from them that I do think are really pretty and I do reach for on a fairly regular basis, regular with how much eyeshadow I have. But in the reality, there are so many other shimmer formulas from other brands that have my heart. So I just wanted to talk about the mattes and like not just throw in a shimmer or two because they are the best of my lethal shimmers that I've tried. So since I'm swatching all mattes, what I did is that I put down my NARS eye primer on each eye, like each time, did a fresh application, used a, Real Techniques kind of like concealer brush to just like buff it out. And then I used the Refer 13 or 14 brush for all but 2 of the shades. That's the brush I had the most duplicates of, so I could lightly clean them, like dry clean them and reuse them. And I wanted to use this as close of a brush, like I wanted to use the same or a similar brush as much as I could. The lethal formula, I actually love going in with a bigger, fluffier brush because it's something, I think of them as a sheer to buildable eyeshadow. I can put on a lighter layer with a bigger, fluffier brush and really blow it out, which is like one of my, like, that's how I love applying eyeshadow. But I can go in and I can layer it, I can intensify it. These swatches, I couldn't really do that in the same way with a brush as small as the brush that I was using. But I think it's still a fair like show of how they perform. I just wanted to say that the lethal formula is, has a lot of kick up. It's powdery. You can get fallout because your brush may pick up a lot of product, but I love that kind of matte formula. So it's why they're a favorite of mine. And you will kind of be able to see that they veer from pastel because or like they veer into pastel because they go on sheer, but I find that I can build up opacity, like for colors that maybe look bright in the pan, but look light on first application, I can build up the opacity. So those are my like finicky little details, but let's go into the colors. So first up we have Runic. This is like an egg yolk yellow. I did a comparison with Runic and Daybreak. Runic is in their Newer Rights collection, and I found the two yellows to basically look very, very close and perform the same. So when I was decluttering, I just went with the newest formula because I knew the product was newest. So it's a very pretty yellow. Like I said, it's that egg yolk color, so it's definitely has some like orange tone in it. But I love yellow, so I am not surprised that I picked yellow. Let me tell you about the next color. I hit pan while filming this video in this color because I love this color so much. This is Relapse. This is, for me, the perfect blown out, blended out, murky or bright green color. This blended out into my skin, like that outer edge kind of color is, I just love it. I love it paired with like truly murkier greens, like we're gonna show in a moment, and like more true grassy bright colors. I love this kind of tone. It's not quite like, it's a neon but not a neon. It doesn't perform the same that a neon does, but I do find it gives a bit of that effect. There's just something about this color that I love. And this is like the third color I've hit pan in, probably in my entire single eyeshadow collection. And all three colors have been greens. No surprise there. So that is Relapse. Now, so these three colors that I'm talking about, Relapse and the next two, were in the first shadows that I ever ordered from Lethal, and they were just like instantly my go-to murky green eye. Just perfect. So the next color in that trio is Recluse or Recluse. And this is that swampy green that can almost look kind of yellowy, but it's kind of brown. I guess you would say this is that like kind of poopy green color. I just love tones like this. This is like neutral to me. I know it's not brown. I know it's not actually neutral, but like that's what I think of as my neutral. I think that it can work with browns. It can work with, again, with like other greens, like brighter greens and more dulled out greens. I'm really glad I'm doing these videos because I knew I liked this color a lot, but like applying them again on my eyes, I was like, oh yeah, bitch, I need to play with this more. And the last in the trio of like my perfect little murky green eye is Lethal Habitat. And so this is that like army green. I find it to be like, it's green, but it's definitely not bright or vibrant. It's more in that like army green tone. I think if it was any more gray toned, I would use it less, but it has a nice like color and depth for me. And I actually am realizing, I'm like, I need to put this with the square pans because I had to repan it because of an accident, but because I don't remember that it's Lethal. Anyway, that's a different story that's just a random thought. But yes, that is Habitat. I love those three colors together. I love them on their own. I love my greens. Next, we're heading into Peachland with Remission. So Remission is, I mean, it's just a really lovely peach. It can look a little bit more intense and almost like pink, but it can also, again, blend out to be like a softer peachy tone. This is one of those colors that I love to use for blush draping, like taking it from the eye onto the cheek. This is a beautiful blush. It's just really pretty. Like, I don't know. Just like how I think of murky greens as a neutral, I think of peach as a neutral in my head, which I realize it's not. It's just a color that I think is easy to work with and pretty. But anyway, I just really like Remission. I've tried a lot of their newer peachy tones, and a lot of them are beautiful, but I keep going back to this one. Next up, we have Sequence, and this was from their After Dark palette. If I can remember when they're from a palette, I'll let you know. But Sequence is from the After Dark palette, and this is just a beautiful lavender. And it has a sheerness to it, so I think that can make it like a beautiful kind of like softer effect, but I find you can also build it up. It's obviously not going to get darker, but the building gets it more vibrant or more opaque. And it just performs really lovely, and not all purples are created equal, and I think this is just a really lovely pastel, I guess, lavender. It just works for me. Now, the next color is Crossroads, and Crossroads is like where purple and pink meet in a pastel way. So in the pan, I think of this as a purple. I think I sometimes I struggle with what to do with this, or like how to organize this, because I'm like, is it purple? Is it pink? Like in the pan, I feel like I want to say it's purple, but then when I'm actually applying it, like I find that it's that like lilac pink purple. It's a really pretty color. And I don't want to say it's unique to my collection or to what's out there, because I don't know well enough off the top of my head to really say that, but it feels unique, and I just really like the tones. This is also another fun one to play with blush draping. If you want to play with like purple or purple adjacent blush tones, don't forget about your eyeshadows. And I find that the Lethal formula with a light hand and like a fluffy brush, you can do that. So that is Crossroads. Now, going into yet again another After Dark color. This is Caps Lock. And I would say like Crossroads is probably like a love child between Sequence and Caps Lock, although I think Crossroads existed before that. But anyway, Caps Lock is just a bright ass pink. It's a bright, bright pink. But again, it can also like go on sheer, and I'm not going to say it's like pastel, but I just think it's interesting like what the colors can do. And one of the things that always made me a little wary about recommending Lethal is that like the sheerness for me generally works because I'm uncooked chicken, more or less. And so the base that's coming through doesn't affect the color all the time. It does affect the color. But like I always kind of was like, oh, I don't know how that would work on deeper skin tones. But I feel like generally, I don't know. I watch Audra, look on YouTube for other, for black and brown and POC creators that use Lethal. But for me, there is something nice about the buildability, which I keep talking about. So I'm just going to move on now. Now, the next color up is Outrun, and it's another color from the After Dark palette. I really enjoy that palette. I think in general that's been my favorite. Teresa's is my favorite because Teresa, and the colors are good in there too. I'm not going to say that it's not, but I didn't pull anything from Teresa's palette because they don't sell those as regular singles. But with the other bundles, palettes they've made, they also sell them separately. So anyway, after Teresa's palette, After Dark is my favorite. After Dark is my favorite palette that you can get from Lethal at the moment. And Outrun is just a really beautiful sky blue, just like a really clean blue color. I don't feel like it veers into like turquoise or green in any way or purple. It just feels blue. And again, this is one of those colors that I can build it up and get the intensity that you're seeing in the pan, or I can like sheer it, blend it out if I want to like just blow out the whole color. I don't reach for blues that often, and yet I feel like this is one of those colors that I always want in my collection and in a formula like this. And speaking of colors I don't reach for often, but somehow I love in my Lethal collection, is Petrichor. Petrichor is just, it's the Petrichor is the perfect deeper turquoise. It's the perfect like jewel tone turquoise. It just is. It just works so beautifully. And I think the reason why I really enjoy having this in my collection and wanted to mention it is that because I reach into greens a lot and I reach into yellows a lot, those are my comfort zone colors. Sometimes I'm like, I need to change this up just a little bit, just a tweak, just a bit. And I find that if I deepen up the outer corner or something with a tone like Petrichor, it makes it just look a little different versus going with like a deeper green or brown or not deepening it up at all. So it's not that I even use this super often in like turquoise looks. It's just because it has that formula where it can like build and blend and all of that, I find that it's one of those that like I'll reach and just like take a dab of it and just like tuck that in the outer corner and kind of, you know, create that depth. It's just such a pretty color. And yet again, I can get that like blown out, like lighter lighter turquoise look, or I can get like a more intense jewel toned pastel look. Not pastel, why do I keep saying pastel? A more jewel toned look. I've been filming a lot, been doing these eye look things in a bit of a batch. So I'm glad I'm done now because my brain is checked out. That was my Lethal Cosmetics top 10 with some other little tidbits thrown in. As per usual, if you have any questions about any of the colors I talked about tonight or any color I didn't talk about, definitely leave me a comment and let me know if there are any hidden gems from Lethal that maybe I haven't found. Otherwise, I hope this video was helpful. And as per usual, most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourself better today than you did yesterday because you are worth it. And hopefully I'll see you again real soon. Bye, friends.